Hello, everyone. I'm Marty Janeski, along with my good friends Ken Brown and George Perdue. We're your hosts of the local sports wrap-up here on at Wyandotte Cable Channel 15 and YouTube. Today is April 14th. It's a Wednesday, 2021. We haven't filmed in 3 weeks based on the studio was shut down for COVID one of those weeks. And let's start there. COVID's on the uptick here in the state of Michigan. There have been more cases here than anywhere in the United States. What do you think that is?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, I know like at our level, we've had some kids in quarantine. We've been testing. We started testing this in the past week. Kids have had to turn those forms in. We had our first round. I'm coaching middle school track right now for spring sport in a little while. We had our kids test yesterday. So, we've been bringing people in that have been certified. I feel bad for the trainer. There's a lot of the sports trainers right now. I mean, they're juggling middle school and high school stuff to go around and test these kids. And, and once they get if a positive hits, now you're really being affected. One hit could affect, 6, 7, 10 kids, so, but we're going to do it once a week. We're going to follow what the state wants us to do, and we keep talking about it. I mean, I tell the kids all the time. I go, we in school we're doing a good job of it. The minute you walk out of that building, though, and you're taking your mask off, and you're jumping into a car with people, or you're hanging out at people's homes, I said that's where you run the risk of things bad happening.
George, are they just testing athletes, or are they testing the whole student body?
So right now it's just athletes. It's kids 13 and over. So it's kind of interesting at the middle school level. So we have kids, obviously they're not 13, that are running track. And so it's any kid 13 or over. Not that it doesn't hit kids that are 11 and 12 years old, but
right.
Any kid 13 or over is being required to be tested at least once a week. So yeah, it's going to be interesting kind of how this goes, and we've had some programs being hit, and some schools, not us, but I know some schools were actually offering vaccine clinics on site for their student population. So I think Gibraltar did that, where they were actually having it in building for any kid. When it opened up to kids 16 or over, that's when some of these schools are, because some of these schools like Gibraltar, Allen Park, even like I think Trenton. I know the middle school is in virtual. Allen Park's still in virtual. Okay. I mean, they were virtual before spring break and are virtual, I think, for at least one more week. So
the tests they give, how fast do they get the results?
I believe it's like that day.
Really?
It's a nasal swab, and I believe it is that day for the kids. A lot of times, I know the one guy who's been helping out with it for like wrestling. They had to do. I mean, think about how close contact you are in wrestling. Yeah. So I think they had to do it like day of, before like of a meet. And then to let the other team know that it was okay for to compete.
So we're 3 weeks since we had a show. It's going to be virtually impossible to cover everything that happened in the 3 weeks. A lot of sports kicked off. The spring sports kicked off. Baseball kicked off. The regionals and the state finals all were played while we were out. Our fine wrestling team that kicked butt around here went into the state quarterfinals and got beat 67-3 to Detroit Catholic Central. Those Catholic schools, they can handpick their athletes. I say that all the time. Give me a team I can handpick. They're easy to coach. But that doesn't put a damper on a fine season. Are they all disappointed? I'm sure they're all disappointed. But they did well throughout the year.
And young team. I talked, Coach Green, we're actually coaching, he's one of the coaches now for track. I mean, I asked him, I said, how many kids are you losing? He's like one or two seniors.
Wow.
That really, I don't even know if they were starters. So, they're young. They're going to have a lot of kids coming back. And, first time ever league title, district title, regional title. First time ever the team went to state, so, and I know they were missing kids. So I know that 67-3 looks pretty lopsided, but I know like 3 or 4 kids were out due to quarantine issues, I believe. So, and that's just some of the things that happen with some of the stuff going on. But young and, definite bright future for the wrestling program.
Right, and you would think that makes a lot of difference, just getting that exposure to the regionals and being young. So hopefully it does translate into next year being a dynamite year for wrestling. And I agree with Marty. 67-3 looks horrible on the board, but when you put in the different factors with the COVID and the season long, they have nothing to be ashamed of. They should stand up and just be proud of those kids, man. I would celebrate them.
And if the majority of them get to come back and give it another whirl, that's good. When you're a senior, it hurts worse, especially in the sport I coach. When they know that it's the finality of their season, it hurts.
Yeah.
Baseball, the boys were playing as we speak. We got an updated final.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to Coach Cotner. Baseball season got started, and they started out actually 0-3. Played Richmond and Blissfield, lost to Richmond in a doubleheader, lost to Blissfield. Came back now since break and have reeled off 5 wins. Just actually beat Taylor 3-2. So played Allen Park yesterday, beat them. Beat Taylor today, and then before that beat Flat Rock and Riverview. So 5 wins in a row for them, and yesterday was 7-3. It seems like they've got some pretty good pitching going on right now. Donovan Canterbury, who's already committed, he's a junior and already committed for baseball already. I can't remember exactly what school he's going to, but I believe it's a school in New York that he's actually going to be playing baseball for. And he pitched yesterday, 10 strikeouts, 6 innings, also contributed 3 RBIs. And he's actually, I think, going as a second baseman in college. So, but he is pitching as well. And then today, Manny Gutierrez pitched, and they ended up scoring a run at the top of the 7th, closed it out in the bottom. And then Tristan Mathis got the save for them. But Sean De Leon, Keegan Rose are some of their other pitchers. And so after a slow start, great continuation. And I know when I talked to Coach Cotner a little bit today, he said, they're playing. They have a tournament, I believe, this weekend. But, you beat AP, you beat Taylor. It's not too bad of a start. I know Carlson's usually pretty good. Trenton's usually pretty good. So we'll see kind of what happens in a couple weeks from now.
No, it felt like baseball weather yesterday, right?
Yes, it was very nice yesterday. It's been nice some of the days. Today you stood out there at the track team, froze your butt off.
Yeah, it was that wind picked up, and they're saying tomorrow, possible snow flurries, possible. So, high of like a 45, so it could get low, low enough for that to happen. Some of the biggest
snowstorms on record in Michigan happen in April.
Man.
Just so you know that. Those are facts you can't change. What else we got here? Girls tennis. Our tennis team was solid before the COVID year last year. They opened their season yesterday, I believe, and went down 5-3 to the Gibraltar Carlson Marauders. It was the first meet they had lost, in 2 years.
Yeah,
because
I
of the fact that no COVID, no spring sports.
Okay.
But, there were some bright spots. The singles, there were some bright spots.
Definitely, yeah. I think as the weather gets better, the tennis game will get better as well. And it'll be fun for the kids to get out there. I think that's the best thing about spring sports, that you are outside, so you get fresh air, and then we can get away from some of this COVID stuff. People can social distance.
Absolutely. They lost all the doubles matches, but the number 1 singles girl, Reese Blackledge, she won her match. 2 singles, Marcella McCombs, she won her match. And Jackie Marino, the number 4 singles girl, she won her match. So they went down 5-3. It's basically 8 matches, right? 4 singles, 4 doubles, and you got to win 5 of them. There are no ties.
Well, in swimming, Downriver had great news. Trenton's Spencer Boiling Hammer picked up his second career state championship in Division III. The senior took first in the 200 freestyle with a time of 1 minute and 42 seconds. Which also set a new school record.
Nice.
He was just ahead of Holland Christian's Joey Grassman. All right.
Yeah, I see that by like 100th of a second. I think on my paper here they're flip-flopped, but 100th of a second, that was bang, bang.
Yeah.
They go to these great swim centers where it's all electronic,
Photo finish.
You jump off the thing, the clock starts. You tap the thing on the wall, it ends. Yeah, so that's, the 100th of a second isn't even that.
They're both moving pretty good, especially for it to be a school record. Boiling Hammer also won as a sophomore, claimed a gold medal in the 200 IM, at the 2019 state finals. And if you also think about it, he didn't get a chance to defend
Right.
it last
And that's
year because he didn't have a season.
You wonder how many kids lost out on that. You know, the ability to possibly win a individual state title because of last year's, cancellation of a lot of those state final tournaments. So, you really feel for some of those kids. A kid could be a 3-year, and he lost out because of what happened last year.
And we just got the bowling in.
Right.
It was like March 2nd and 3rd, first weekend in March, and then by the 6th or 7th, it was done.
Yeah.
And if our week was just flopped one more week, we're not playing.
Yeah, so one of the only ones I think that actually did finish all the way through, I think, was bowling last year. I know for sure that, and I don't think anything else finished last year. I don't think hockey finished. I don't think basketball I know definitely didn't. So I think bowling might have been one of the only tournaments, because wrestling might have. Wrestling might have been that same weekend of.
The boys were in the hotel.
Yeah.
For some of the schools when we were there.
Yeah, wrestling might have been the only other sport that I think
At
finished
Ford Field
that
weekend.
weekend. Yep. So wrestling and bowling were it.
Wow.
So.
Let's see. We got a wrestler won the state D2 title at Woodhaven. New Boston, Huron. He got back into the first place match. Last year, Corey Brenner was in the match and lost. This year, little revenge. He played this kid, Vincent Scaramusino, from Crosswell, Lexington, and the kid had never lost all year.
Wow.
And he was the number 1 seed in the weight class, 189-pound weight class. And Brenner came away 4-0.
All right.
So he had to dominate the whole thing at the D2 state championships basically 3 weeks ago now. How about that? He seemed like a pretty solid kid. And funny thing about all this is that he's the 4th individual champion for the Huron program since 2014.
Right.
So they're wrestlers. Yeah. They're wrestlers in Huron, eh? But not this year. Wyandotte kicked their butt this year.
Yeah,
they're D2.
Yeah, they've done pretty good for being, for being a smaller school, for a D2 school. Huron has had some pretty good wrestlers come out in the last few years.
Even back in my day.
Yeah.
When I was, because we had a kid from Huron that worked with me when I was doing the steel mill contracting work, and we swung sledgehammers and all this, and he wrestled at Huron.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a beast. He was one of them heavier wrestlers, but he could swing that sledgehammer like it was a homeowner hammer.
Yeah. I think the cool thing about Cody was he won 170-21 for his career, right?
Wow, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I mean, kids talk about, when kids get into 100 wins in high school is usually looked upon as like a big accomplishment. I've been around for some of these tournaments where kids have won 100 had 100 wins. They have the signs. They do like a recognition for him. They got 170 wins. That's pretty good. Usually 100 wins for a kid, and he must have obviously been wrestling since he was a freshman too, for that to happen. So that's pretty impressive. And hopefully these kids go somewhere else, some other place. We had a few Downriver kids go to Central, and I think a couple of them gone to U of M. But collegiate wrestling is a whole different ball game compared to you start getting like riding time and different ways and get points that are completely different than what it's like in high school. It's one of those only sports that really changes in college considerably compared to high school. I mean, football's football, bowling's bowling, hockey's hockey, but wrestling's one of those ones that really changes when you go from high school to college. So,
funny you mentioned bowling. I was flicking channels the other night, and they had the college girls team finals on one of the back ESPN stations, and Taylor Davis, name ring a bell? She won the state title back. Julia was competing. I think Vic might have been doing the girls back then. But, she won the state title, shot 300, I remember, in the state in her semifinal match or final match. And she was the anchor bowler for Arkansas. It was Arkansas against Nebraska.
Wow. That's
and
cool.
It's the first team to win 4 Baker games.
Okay.
Arkansas got up 4-1, 1-0, and then that was it. Nebraska, they were better bowlers, but they've got a history. They've got 7 or 10 singles titles in the, for the Division I college. They're where you want to. They're only going to again handpick the best in the country.
Where did the Davis girl go to school? Was it downriver area, or she was the state champ for Michigan? And
She
it
was Davidson, right?
Yeah, Davidson. I think, yeah. She was a state champ, but was not from this area.
I got you.
But it's funny, too, how, we've always emphasized Baker games, how important that is. And it's funny how in college, that's all it is. It's not individual in college. It's all those Baker games, So you got to have 5 solid bowlers to be able to do that.
And the way they run the tournaments, having gone last year with Julia, they'll bowl 15 Baker games and then 6 team games.
Yeah.
They'll start at 10 in the morning and be bowling at 6.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
I'll bite. What's a Baker game?
Well, if there were 5 of us, as there are 3 of us and the 2 cameramen, if he's the leadoff bowler and I'm bowling 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, then he goes the 6th frame, I bowl the 7th frame, he bowl the 8th frame, 9th frame, 10th frame.
Got you.
So, and they're interchangeable parts. You could put them in any way, but once you put someone in that 2 position, they have to bowl 7 unless you throw someone in the 7th spot for their place.
I got you.
So your best bowlers should bowl 5th and 10th, theoretically.
Typically, yeah. And we've seen sometimes, too, where they put a good bowler in the first spot to kind of start everything off. You've seen some different strategies. I mean, some coaches they'll pull a kid out and have one kid bowl the first ball and another kid bowl the second ball because the kid is a better spare bowler.
He throws a straight ball.
If it's 10 pins. I mean, I don't know if I've never done that before and pulled the kid out for the second ball. But I
had a good drill going this year with only 6. I had 2 girls bowling like the 3rd and the 8th frame.
Yeah.
One would bowl the 3rd, and that way they kept staying in the game.
I got you.
Yeah, it worked out. They didn't seem to mind.
No, I like it. I never heard of it. I mean, I heard of it here, but I never knew what it meant.
Yeah.
So that's all right. You could bite. Carlson got a new football coach.
Yeah, Landon Grove.
You know the guy?
I've heard. I have a friend of mine, a couple of friends of mine that coach for Carlson. Ryan Butson, who is going to be the running backs coach for them. Him and I went to high school together. He's been there forever. Drew Sweeney, former Wyandotte student, he's coaching there and teaching there in Carlson as well. I talked to both, and they were super excited. They didn't have a coach. Well, Cobflesh. So not the Cobflesh, but his son,
whose dad coached Lincoln Park way back in the day when I was going to school.
And I don't think they could find anybody. So he kind of stepped in and was head coach last year. And now he's going to stay on, I think, and coach like defensive backs.
Something like that.
But they bring Landon Grove, who played football here, I believe, at like Ferris State, and then went to Elkhart, Indiana. Never has been a head coach, but I guess highly recommended. Highly regarded. Guys is going to be teaching in Gibraltar, young guy.
Yeah.
Which, we were talking about that a couple days ago. A lot of districts don't hire anymore. Like, they don't hire coaches. It used to be like they would go out and say, okay, we're looking for, a teacher, like a coach first and maybe the teacher part. But, and because the problem that you see now is like a lot of people don't get into coaching anymore because, that's not one of the things that that they want to do. But they specifically hired him to be, to be the football coach, and he has a teaching job too. So.
Well, they throw that huge salary at you to coach.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, at $2 an hour,
Yeah.
it adds up.
Yeah. We're not Texas paying 6 figures to coach football.
No, you are not in Texas. That's for sure.
But I think that, interestingly enough, and when I played high school football, our coach was academic monitor. So he had his own independent job. He wasn't a teacher at all. He did have a 6-hour, we all had weightlifting and stuff like that, but he wasn't a teacher. It was his job to coach football, and that's what it was. He was there to coach football.
And you don't see that as often. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of, and you've seen coaches switch. A lot of times, coaches, if they were in a school, they were there forever. And you don't. I mean, how many coaches can you look at and say, okay, like Don Lesnar was the Riverview coach forever, Ed Bellis was the Allen Park head coach forever, and now you've seen coaches, they may stay in a spot and then they go somewhere else, and that didn't really happen 30 years ago.
What Adams, he doesn't teach, does he?
Oh yeah, Adams is with me. He's in the social studies department. He started as a PE teacher in Wyandotte, and while he was still coaching in other schools, like he coached a little bit at Wyandotte, then went to. Taylor, was there for a while, and then came over when Rod Baker, stepped down. And I think it's been 16 years now for Ron Adams as head coach, and he's right down the hall from me. We're all in the social studies department at the high school. So, but he was PE elementary, and then he came over to the high school right around the same time he got the job, right around there.
I think it makes a big difference, though, when the coach is in the building.
Oh, yeah.
The player knows that it's 20 steps away, and I could be running it for days until he's tired afterwards.
Right. Don't screw up. Coach is right here. Interesting thing going on with the Michigan High School Athletic Association. They're currently seeking student athletes to become members of its Student Advisory Council beginning in the 2021-22 season. This is an interesting concept. 4 boys and 4 girls from the 2023 graduating class, 2 years from now, will be selected to 2-year terms and will meet on matters related to maintaining and promoting a proper perspective and sensible scope for high school sports. I just want to throw this out there. They have 8 members from 2022, and they're dropping 8 members from this year's class, so they'll be picking up 8 more, There's a, what? They do have a Dearborn High junior, Amina Ferris, but what kind of questions do you think they ask these kids? I mean, that would be my question to the both of you is, if I'm running the whole program in Michigan High School Athletic and I want a student's input, what are you going to ask them? That, to me,
I think I'll take a stab at it. I think in theory it's a good idea because the kids are the ones playing the sport and what they like about it, the things that they like and what they can benefit from playing sports. What benefits do they get? But the questions that you would ask that kid, I guess, is what sport? I would start with, are you a high school athlete? And I'm sure that's part of the criteria. So you have to have a 3.0. But how do you see it? What can make your sport better? You know what I mean? Like, what is it that we could do to help make your sport better?
I think my Captain Bowler would be good for this gig, smart kid. And I'm sure there aren't any bowlers represented in those kids. I'm going to show her this information. Our banquet's next week. Yeah, it just I think that get a little feedback from the student end of it, and it just depends on how much weight the MHSAA wants to put behind what the students are saying. Because
that would be my argument.
All about.
How much does MHSAA listen to outside voices? I mean, you kind of see some of the stuff that was going on with, when some of the decisions were being made, and they're
careful,
like,
you're a coach.
And I am a coach, but you also look at like what's been going on as far as safety issues, and and some of the things that I feel like they wouldn't have stopped unless like when the governor stepped in and said, okay, we're gonna in November when we're pausing stuff, when right at the height of the football playoffs, and that had to be paused, and you saw them come out last Friday and say, even though the recommendation was to pause youth sports for a couple of weeks, the MHSA came out Friday and said absolutely not. I somehow see their point on recently, because it's all mostly outdoor stuff now. But you just kind of wonder, like with some of the groups like this, and I know you went through it with, when they changed up your format for certain things. And I know we don't have to get started, but I mean, just you would think that groups would take consideration and listen to what these kids are saying, and you hope that's what happens. So, but yeah, it's your Captain Bowler would definitely be a good person to put on this.
Interesting concept. I'm sure they do the meetings. You have to 6 meetings, I think it is. You have to go through a little bit of an application process. They're going to ask you questions, and you have to get a referral from a governing body in the school. So that's easy enough to do, though. Vice principal or somebody's going to, athletic director, will say you're a great kid.
I think it makes sense even from the Michigan High School's perspective, though, because if nothing else, I have a captive audience 6 times a year to have these discussions. If I can't get to the kids that I would want to get to, hey, we'll bring our body together, we'll speak real quick, and then I can say that I talked to some students, and this is how the students
put it on their resume.
No, yeah,
that they talked to somebody.
Yeah, put it on paper. You're saying that you did have input from students. And it goes a long way. I know in nonprofit worlds and when you write grant applications and things of that nature, you want to have what the student's perspective is. And I think that's kind of what they're setting up with this.
So what do we got going in the next week or so? What do we got sport-wise? You got any scheduled future stuff over there? What do you got over there?
The Tigers play the Astros tonight.
Yeah.
Astros are down 5 players. The Tigers look good, Joel. But there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm still into basketball right now.
Talking that stuff.
Oh, you're silly. Baseball. I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about something else. The 17th. Taylor. We talked about that game. Taylor has changed. Wyandotte plays Taylor in baseball on the 17th. They'll also play Stony Creek, so it's a doubleheader that day. 19th they play Trenton. 21st we play Southgate. And then the 22nd we play Etzel Ford.
Okay.
I heard softball started.
Yeah, softball. I think, and I know track. They kind of got a slower start to their season. They had a tournament, or they had a meet Saturday. They went to Farmington, which was kind of interesting. Like, they didn't even start till like 4:00 in the afternoon, which for like a Saturday track meet is like really late. And then they have another one, Ipsy Lincoln, this coming Saturday. Then they start next Tuesday. So they're doing it for track. It's completely different than how it's been. It's going to be tri meets every Tuesday, basically, and then if they decide to do something on Saturday, same thing for us too at the middle school. We're doing every Wednesday for a track meet with 3 schools instead of having, like just the duels like we used to have. So
I know the date is May. What's the Saturday? First Saturday in May. The baseball and softball teams are having a golf outing.
it's May 1st. I think.
Is it May 1st?
I think May 1st.
They're having a
that
golf
first.
outing over $100 a head. They raise money for the softball team or the baseball team. I'm not available that day, unfortunately. Or me and you'd go with our daughters.
Yeah,
Because we really liked that softball team when they played on it.
Good time.
Yeah, yes, there was. As we wrap up, Tigers are kicking butt. Who's the hot rookie?
Badu.
Badu, yes.
Akil Badu.
He's you know what? He's taking full advantage of his opportunity. And that's what baseball is all about, Lou Gehrig got in because the guy slipped on some bats. He got in. He played for 100 years after that. Local Sports Wrap Up at gmail.com. Get us on YouTube. Just go to Local Sports Wrap Up on YouTube and look us up. You can pull up all the old shows. You can pull up this show in about a day. Guys, it was good getting back together. Again, we couldn't cover everything that we had to talk about, and there's always something we're missing. Hey, get your shots out there. Wear your mask. Got my Bears mask here. Someday we may not have to wear those again. I'm Marty Chinesky, Ken Brown, George Perdue. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.